Welcome to the History in Focus channel. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more videos like this one.
Soldiers from a field artillery brigade of the 4th Australian Division walk on a ski track placed in a muddy and destroyed battlefield in Chateau Wood near Hooge, Belgium on October 29, 1917. This moment occurred during the Battle of Passchendaele, an intense confrontation fought by British and Allied forces against Germany to control the area near Ypres, Belgium. The battle is marked by terrible conditions and heavy casualties, symbolizing the brutality of trench warfare. 9 European sovereigns in Windsor for the funeral of King Edward VII in May 1910, 4 years before the start of the war. These were kings from Norway, Bulgaria, Portugal, German Empire, Greece, Belgium, Spain, United Kingdom, and Denmark. This gathering of royalty occurred just 4 years before World War I, a conflict that would involve some of these same leaders. During the war, empires like those of Wilhelm II and Tsar Ferdinand of Bulgaria would confront nations led by Albert I and George V. In the following decade, King George I of Greece would be assassinated, while Norway, Spain, and Denmark maintained neutrality. On the other hand, Manuel II of Portugal and Ferdinand of Bulgaria would be deposed in revolutions. In 1914, Austria-Hungary was a powerful and vast country, larger than Germany, with almost the same number of citizens. It was governed by Emperor Franz Joseph I since 1848, who was preparing his nephew, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, as heir to the throne. In this photo, taken in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife are leaving a reception at the town hall. Earlier that morning, on their way to the hall, their procession was attacked by a member of a group of Serbian nationalist assassins, whose bomb damaged a car and injured dozens of bystanders. After this photo was taken, the Archduke and his wife got into an open car and headed to a nearby hospital to visit the injured. However, a few blocks away, the car stopped to turn around, right in front of another assassin, who approached the car and fired 2 shots, killing Franz Ferdinand and his wife. The assassin Gavrilo Princip left, and his victim, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, both photographed in 1914. Princip, a 19-year-old Bosnian Serb who killed the Archduke, was recruited by the secret society Black Hand, along with other conspirators, with Princip's goal being to foster the creation of a Serbian nation. After the attack in Sarajevo, which served as a catalyst for World War I, all those involved were captured and tried. Princip, being too young for the death penalty, received 20 years in prison, but died of tuberculosis in prison 4 years later, under conditions aggravated by the war he precipitated. On June 28, 1914, after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary and his wife in Sarajevo, a Bosnian Serbian nationalist was captured by the police. Although often associated with Gavrilo Princip, the captured might be a bystander, Ferdinand Baer. He was taken to the local police station, while the city and soon the world would react to the event that would trigger World War I. Shortly after the assassination, Austria-Hungary issued a list of demands to Serbia, demanding that they suspend all anti-Austro-Hungarian activities, dissolve certain political groups, dismiss certain political officers, and arrest those within their borders who participated in the assassination, among other things, with 48 hours to comply. Serbia, with the support of its ally Russia, politely refused to fully comply and mobilized its army. Soon after, Austria-Hungary, supported by its ally Germany, declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914, thus starting World War I. In this photo, taken in August 1914, the Prussian Guard infantry in new gray uniforms leaves Berlin, Germany, heading to the front lines. Girls and women along the way greet them and hand them flowers. In 1914, Belgian soldiers were photographed with their bicycles in Boulogne, France. Despite having declared neutrality at the start of the conflict, Belgium's strategic position offered a critical route to France, attracting Germany's attention. The German army demanded free passage through Belgian territory, threatening to treat Belgium as an enemy nation if passage was denied. Belgium's refusal to allow this violation of its neutrality led Germany to invade Belgium, triggering a chain reaction that deepened European involvement in World War I. During World War I, modern combat technologies were employed on an unprecedented scale. Some of these technologies, such as chemical attacks, were later banned and classified as war crimes. The airplane, an innovation of the time, played various roles as an observation platform, bomber, and anti-personnel weapon, and even in anti-aircraft defense, shooting down enemy aircraft. In a moment captured in 1915 on the Western Front, French soldiers gather around a priest as he blesses an airplane. During World War I, more than 65 million soldiers were mobilized globally, requiring vast quantities of supplies and equipment. In Lübeck, Germany, an image captures a representative moment of this war logistics. A table set up outdoors in front of a factory where steel helmets are produced. It displays the manufacturing process of the Stahlhelms, the helmets of the Imperial German Army, showing the various stages from raw material to the final product. During the early days of World War I, a Belgian soldier was captured in a photograph smoking a cigarette in the midst of the battle between Dendermonde and Utegem in Belgium. Germany, seeking a quick victory against France, invaded Belgium in August, with the plan to advance rapidly into French territory. Although the German army initially swept through Belgium, it encountered unexpectedly strong resistance when it reached France. This initial period of the war was marked by a devastating loss of lives. On August 22nd, alone, France lost more than 27,000 of its soldiers, with thousands more injured on the deadliest day of battle the country faced. German soldiers celebrate Christmas in the field in December 1914. Far from home and under adverse conditions, these soldiers gathered to share a bit of Christmas spirit, despite the grim backdrop of the war. This moment reflects a pause in the fighting, providing the combatants a brief opportunity to feel normalcy and fraternity amidst the conflict. In 1914, the Japanese fleet was positioned off the coast of China, reflecting Japan's involvement in World War I alongside the United Kingdom and its allies. Japan, seizing the opportunity to expand its influence in the Pacific, attacked German interests in the region. This included German island colonies and leased territories on the Chinese mainland, marking a significant moment in which Japan emerged as an active naval power in the global context of the conflict. During World War I, biplanes were a common sight in the skies of Europe. These planes, characterized by having two stacked wings, played crucial roles in reconnaissance, combat, and bombing. Flying in formation, these biplanes offered a more organized and effective air strategy, allowing pilots to carry out coordinated operations against enemy targets and defend each other from air attacks. On the Salonika front in Macedonia, Indian troops were photographed during a gas mask drill. This location became a strategic point where Allied forces, including troops from India, joined with the Serbs to face the armies of the Central Powers. Preparation for chemical attacks was essential, given the introduction of poisonous gases in the war, requiring constant and trained use of gas masks. The landing of horses at Çanakkale, Turkey, was an event during World War I in which horses and equipment were delivered to support the Austro-Hungarian army. This crucial logistical operation allowed essential resources to be transported to the Ottoman War theater, where the Central Powers, including Austria-Hungary, faced the Allies. The use of horses was critical for the mobility and effectiveness of military forces at the time, especially in difficult terrains where motorized vehicles could not yet operate efficiently. The French battleship Bouvet played a crucial role early in the war, initially escorting troop convoys through the Mediterranean. In 1915, during the Dardanelles campaign, the Bouvet was part of an Allied naval force composed of British and French ships aimed at neutralizing Turkish defenses. However, the mission encountered intense resistance. The Bouvet was severely damaged after being hit by at least 8 Turkish shells and subsequently hitting a sea mine. The damage was so extensive that the ship sank within minutes. Although some crew members were rescued, nearly 650 men lost their lives in the sinking, marking one of the many naval tragedies of the war. In 1915, before the Battle of Gallipoli, British soldiers were photographed using motorcycles in the Dardanelles, then part of the Ottoman Empire. Motorcycles, an innovation in military mobility at the time, allowed for rapid communication and reconnaissance, vital elements in war operations. A dog belonging to Mr. Dumas Realier was photographed dressed as a German soldier. This quirky and playful moment contrasts with the grim context of World War I, reflecting how, even in times of severe conflict, people sought moments of lightness and humor. The pillbox smashers, a nickname given to enormous artillery shells used on the Western Front during World War I, were formidable weapons. Each shell weighed about 1,400 pounds and was capable of causing significant destruction. When detonated, these shells created impressive craters, over 4.5 meters deep and 15 meters in diameter, transforming the battlefield and deeply impacting military strategies and movements. A photo captures a motorcyclist studying the details of a tombstone in a military cemetery. In the background, an observation balloon is being prepared to ascend, indicating the proximity and continuation of hostilities. The tombstone, inscribed in German with the words, "Here rest brave French warriors," serves as a somber reminder of mortality and mutual respect among adversaries, even in wartime. Highlanders soldiers from the United Kingdom, photographed carrying sandbags to the front. The Highlanders, known for their distinctive uniforms and bravery, played crucial roles in trench operations. The sandbags they carried were essential for fortifying and maintaining defensive positions on the front lines. On the Western Front during World War I, British artillery played a crucial role in bombarding German positions. These bombardments were a common tactic used to weaken enemy defenses before infantry attacks or to disrupt supply and communication lines. The British artillery, consisting of a variety of cannons and howitzers, launched explosive projectiles over long distances, causing massive destruction and preparing the ground for subsequent advances. A British officer is seen leading his men over the top of the trenches, directly onto the battlefield, under intense bombardment from German projectiles. This brave, though dangerous action was typical when orders were given to advance against enemy positions. A photo shows American soldiers from Maryland's 117th Trench Mortar Battery operating a trench mortar in Badenvillers, France. These soldiers maintained continuous fire against enemy positions, playing a crucial role in the attack. The trench mortar, an effective weapon for short-range attacks, was particularly useful in operations that required bombarding enemy fortifications or troop concentrations near or on the front lines. During World War I, a German soldier was captured in action while throwing a hand grenade against enemy positions. Hand grenades, a fundamental weapon in trench warfare tactics, were used to clear enemy trenches or defend positions against adversarial advances. This act of throwing a grenade illustrates the intensity and proximity of combat often experienced during the conflict, where close-quarters combat and the use of melee weapons were common and vital for gaining tactical advantage on the battlefield. A photo of French soldiers who participated in the capture of Courcelles, located in the Oise department, France. The operation was marked by bravery and sacrifice, with several soldiers suffering injuries in the process. During the British advance in Flanders, a stretcher-bearer patrol faced extremely difficult conditions as they crossed knee-deep mud near Bolsing. These stretcher-bearers, essential to rescue and medical assistance operations, played a vital role on the battlefield, saving lives by transporting the wounded from the front lines to safer treatment locations. On April 4, 1917, German soldiers were recorded practicing with flamethrowers, one of the most feared and destructive weapons introduced during World War I. These devices, which projected a continuous jet of fire, were primarily used to dislodge enemy soldiers from trenches and fortifications. Training with flamethrowers reflects the evolution of military technology at the time and the pursuit of increasingly effective means to break the stalemate of stagnant front lines. The use of these weapons also represented the terrible increase in lethality and brutality on the battlefield, marking an era where war became increasingly industrialized and devastating. In 1917, in Candor, located in the Oise department, France, a photograph captured soldiers and a dog next to a ruined house. This scene illustrates the devastating consequences of war, not only for the combatants but also for civilian communities whose homes and lives were shattered by the conflict. During World War I, the introduction of tanks on the battlefield marked a significant shift in mechanized warfare, although the early models faced various technical challenges. In a scene captured shortly after a British cavalry advance, British tanks are seen passing by recently fallen German soldiers, highlighting the brutality and rapid progression of combat. The early tanks often broke down, got stuck in the mud, fell into trenches, or were easily targeted by artillery due to their slow movement. In 1917, during the Sinai and Palestine campaign, the Ottoman Turkish Machine Gun Corps was positioned on the Tel Esh Sharia line near Gaza. The presence of heavily armed Ottoman units represented a significant challenge for British troops, who faced difficult conditions and tenacious resistance in their attempt to secure vital strategic routes and dominate the Middle East region. A color photograph of the Allied soldiers on the Western Front, captured through the Paget process, represents a significant moment in both the history of warfare and the history of photography. The Paget process, one of the earliest techniques for color photography, involved the use of glass plates and colored filters to create a color image, providing a more vivid and detailed depiction of the scene than traditional black and white photographs. In June 1918, a German ammunition column, consisting of men and horses, was photographed crossing areas of woods contaminated with gas during World War I. Both the soldiers and the horses were equipped with gas masks, an essential protective measure against the chemical attacks that had become a common and terribly effective tactic during the conflict. In September 1917, German soldiers were caught fleeing a gas attack in Flanders, Belgium, during World War I. The use of chemical weapons became a common and devastating practice in this war, starting with relatively milder tear gases and evolving to much more dangerous agents like mustard gas, phosgene, and chlorine. These chemical agents caused intense pain, severe injuries, and often death, fundamentally altering the nature of combat. The image of soldiers trying to escape these attacks illustrates the terror and disorder that chemical weapons brought to the battlefields, forcing the development of countermeasures such as gas masks and emergency evacuation protocols.